Okay, we're good.
Okay, well, I've got backup papers and photographs and a lot of stuff that I'll let you look through, a whole box of them, as a matter of fact, and then some, the different times and phases of it. But during my career, I flew off of 8 aircraft carriers. So that was exciting times, to say the least. And going from flying a very small helicopter, I went flying what's called the HR-2S, a great big helicopter with a clamshell doors that go like this. And we're flying out of El Toro, and we'd make trips to Las Vegas. And when we did, I was driving a 1950 Plymouth. It was my second car there. And when we go to Las Vegas, I'd just open the doors, drive the car in, close the doors, and go to Vegas. I'd land at the ramp on Vegas, open the doors, and drive out and go to town.
Because you were the one that made the call.
Yeah.
Don't think that was.
That wasn't too kosher.
Yeah, I don't think there was, didn't need approval for it. He was the approval.
And during that tour at El Toro with or San Juan was helicopters, we would go up on hunting trips and land guys and take to my friends and land and up in the national forest and stuff. And way the hell out where you couldn't even get to with a donkey heart. You know, land and pitch tent, spend the night, do some hunting, and head for home.
There you go.
So that's my experience with hunting that I really enjoy. So we had 12 of those huge helicopters on our cruise to the Caribbean. And while I was there, I got transferred back to El Toro to go overseas again. Right about the end of my 9 months, they sent me back to El Toro and sent me back overseas for my second tour in Vietnam.
What year was that?
That was 1967. So I go for another 13 months this tour this time, and
That was one of the bad times too, wasn't it?
oh, yeah, 1967 was right about the height of the war, and I was assigned to HMM 262, and that was the name of the helicopter squadron, and flying the CH-46. That's a big twin-engine job, and that's 90 feet from front tip of the rotor to the back tip. So when you're landing, you got to have a lot of space to put that big dude in there. And a 5-man crew had a pilot, co-pilot, a gunner on each side, 50 caliber weapons with a gunner on each side, and the crew chief. And it took all 5 of us to really maneuver that thing into these tight zones with rocks and tree stumps and everything else, and sit down while they were getting shot at. So spent some time at Marble Mountain. Then shortly we deployed to Quang Creek, which is way up along the DMZ, way up north, about as far as you get north. And so I spent the rest of my time there. So I was probably close to 12 months up at Quang Creek, where we were flying daily. And during my time there, I flew 1,084 combat missions. And was shot down 3 more times. First time I was shot down on that tour, Clay Sneer was my co-pilot, and it was his first tour, first flight into combat.
Oh, jeez.
And we got hit bad and had to land, and so we were right on a beach. I was trying to, the carrier was only about 2 or 3 miles off the shore, and so I was heading for the carrier, and I saw the pressure just going down, down, down. The hydraulic pressure was dropping like that. I just landed in time, and the controls freeze up because it operates under 2,500 pounds of pressure, and you anything if it freezes up that way. I just made it to the ground, and well, we were on the beach, pretty close to the beach.
So the controls froze right,
Well,
right.
just as I landed,
This is your
and by the
landing?
time I shut down, the controls were froze up. No hydraulic pressure left, because it was hit a couple places in the line. And 8 of those rounds went right behind my head, and both hydraulic lines run up and down right behind your head, about 8 inches behind your head. And a round went through and clipped both lines. There's 2 systems, and either one fell, you can still fly with the other, but you can't fly without at least
Yeah,
one
both
of them.
yeah.
And so we landed, and I said, well, it looks like we could get back to the carrier if we get some fluid and go out to the carrier, my wingman go out to the carrier, get some fluid, and then we come back and put it back in there, and I can make it to the ship from here, I think. So I was on the radio to the squadron CO, and he said, well, you come back and describe me the situation. So I said, Clay Sneer, I said, okay, you get out there in front of the chopper and watch up and down the beach for the bad guys to come in. Well, he's scared shitless. His eyes about that big around. He's laying down there on his belly out front, his pistol and his rifle by his side, watching for the bad guys to come. But they got close, but they didn't get to us. And then we were firing. They were hitting the chopper still. And when we come back with the hydraulic fluid, you have to get up on top of the chopper to put it in the top up here. So the crew chief, Bob Ed Harrison, is up there putting the hydraulic fluid in, and I'm sitting there ready to crank up. And hurry up, Bob, come on, hurry up.
I met
Trust
him.
me, I'm hurrying. So he gets it in there, and then I crank up, and he's got a shop towel, and he's holding it around those 2 lines as tight as he can, because the 2,500 pressure is just blowing the steam like steam, you know. So we crank up, and immediately I lift off and head back to the carrier.
Clay's holding us to.
No, it was Bob, the crew chief,
okay.
because it was outside of the cockpit. It was
Okay,
just right here on the other side of the cockpit, and he's up there holding that thing with shop towels wrapped around it, trying to keep the loss.
Trying to hold 2,500 pounds of pressure with his hands.
Yeah. And so once again, we land, and I no sooner landed and controls froze again. And Clay, to this day, he says, "You son of a bitch, you know what you did? You left me there. You went back to the carrier and you left me there to fight this fight all by myself." I said, "Oh no, you had the 2 gunners and the crew chief to take care of it, help you out."
They did things that they wouldn't be allowed to do today, I don't think.
You do what you got to
Well,
do.
you do what you got to do in combat. You don't ask permission. You ask forgiveness.
Ask
when it's
forgiveness
done.
later.
So we're flying day and night, and the main chore is to resupply folks on the ground and do the medevacs and take care of everybody that's out there to supply with water and ammunition and food and what have you. And a lot of the areas they were in, there was an external load that you carried underneath, and you fly over and drop it on the ground and take off. But a lot of them you had to land to unload it. Sitting on the ground with the NVH firing at you is unbelievable. If you're flying, you can zigzag and you can do certain things to try to keep from getting hit. But when you're sitting on the ground, you're just like a big magnet.
Yeah.
All the rounds coming down at you. And so a couple of quick stories out of sequence, but had this group commander. His name was O.B. Galentine. He was a full colonel, and I was a major at the time. And we had from January to May of 1968, we lost 14 choppers completely destroyed by the enemy action, and 47 guys killed. My whole tour, I never had a crew member seriously wounded. had a few nicks and what have you, but was some shrapnel flying through the belly, but never had a serious wound out of the whole time. And one of the stories I was going to tell you about is O.V. Galentine was in the command bunker one night, gave me a call. I gave a call and said, medevac, we've got to get out. So I go down for the briefing. And this place I'd been flying out of all day long. It was on the side of the hill. It was a bitch to get in at daytime. And we picked up a lot of hits out there that day. It was just surrounded by NBA troops. And so he's insisting, we got to go get this guy right now. And I said, well, what's wrong with him? And he told me, and it didn't sound very serious to me. He's going to live till daylight. What the hell? Risk 5 guys going in there. So I was arguing with him about it. And he said, well, if you don't have the balls to go in, then I guess I'll have to call a different squadron. I turned to Jack Alexander, who was my co-pilot, and I said, Jack, you might as well go hit the rack because Colonel, I'm sure, will want to go along and be my co-pilot on this. And he said, he was stuttering around. Pretty soon he said, well, we better check out weather again. And he come back, he went out, checked weather, and he said, oh, yeah, it's really closing in. We can't go tonight.
Yeah.
Well,
He had a change of heart, did he?
yeah, he had a change of heart. Well, shortly after that, he was relieved as a group commander, and a new guy, Colonel John Hanson, came in. And he gave me a call and said, Dave, what the hell's going on up there that you're losing so many choppers? Because we lost the 14 choppers. And I said, well, it's a tough situation, Colonel, and we get shot at every day, all day, and just performing the mission we're sent to do up here. We can't let these guys die and starve to death. We've got to resupply them. And he said, well, okay. And I said, well, why don't you come fly with me a couple of days and see if you got any recommendations?
What was his name again?
John Hanson, Colonel. He was the air group commander. So he shows up the second day in Vietnam, and he's got a starch plate suit on, cover all squared away. He looks like a movie star, walks right in there. And I'm in a cruddy old sweat-stained, dirty flight suit from all the dust and shit lying up. And I go, oh man, I bet I'm making a hell of an impression on this guy. So we go out and do some resupply mission and stuff, and we're getting shot at pretty regularly, taking some hits and stuff, but none, all that serious. And then when I would fly, I would always have the recon troops radio frequency on, so I could hear when guys got in trouble, and I'd know immediately something that I had to do. Not many people did that because they didn't want to know what was going on out there. But so I was listening to the call for this guy screaming on the radio, man, we got to have help, we got to have help. And so I said, got the location, I said, okay, I'll be there as soon as possible. Headed over there, and the situation was there were 9 men in the patrol. There was, Lieutenant leading it, and a hospital corpsman, Lanny Long, and then 7 other radio operator and what have you. And out of the 9, 6 of them were killed, and 2 of them were badly wounded, including the platoon leader and Lanny Long, the corpsman. They were shot bad. But still, there were 6 of them laying around in the bush, and we landed about, probably 50 yards from them, but they had to be carry all the dead, and meanwhile, they were surrounded, and we were just getting shot out of us. So we get them out of there, and the colonel heard the screams and yells for help, they're dying, they're killing us, come, police are coming to get us, please come and get us. So he heard that, and he said, my God, man, no way you can turn that down. I said, no, we're gonna go in regardless.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna get shot up pretty bad, but Lanny Long and the platoon leader were hit bad. Lanny had a sucking chest wound and a bullet through his thigh, and he's out there helping carry these guys. So I'd send my crew chief and 2 gunners out, but they're spread around an area that's probably 300 yards across, and so we get them all get them all loaded in, and we take off and get back, and there were the only two survivors. Well, there's a radio operator was uninjured for the most part, but all the rest of the 8 of them were either killed or badly wounded. So all the guys that could see it were evac to knew what went on. Were evac to hospital ship. As soon as I got them out there, I took them right to the hospital ship and unloaded them. And so I didn't even know where they were or anything. And then I was written up. The colonel made sure I was written up for a Silver Star for that mission, which I did get. And then as a sequel to this, Lanning Long and the patrol leader looked me up. They kept in contact. They were in the same hospital and recovery stuff together, so they became friends, and they decided to look me up, and that was shortly after I retired in '72. And so they call and say, hey, we'd like to come out and see you. Let's see, Lanning was from West Virginia, and the patrol leader was from Michigan. So they jumped on planes to come out to see me just to thank me in person for saving their bacon. And we all became good friends. We stayed at the bar till closed, and then we went out on the patio and stayed till daylight. So then I became friends with them, and he came out a couple times. Lanning came out regularly every couple of years, and every year on that date, May the 18th, I get a call from him to say, 50 years ago, 51 years ago, 52 years ago, you pulled my ass out there.
Remembers that.
I just want to thank you once again. Then he got married, and he brought his wife out to meet me, his wife Ann. And so then we went out to dinner and talked and what have you, and spent a couple of days together, and he went back, and then they started having kids. And he had a couple girls, and they were a couple years apart, but I'm sitting there watching TV one Saturday afternoon, watching a football game, and the doorbell rings. I go to the door, and this little girl, about 7 or 8 years old, she says, "Are you Mr. Althoff?" And I said, "Yes, what's going to do for honey?" She said, "If it weren't for you, I wouldn't be alive."
Yeah.
And she started bawling her eyes out, and then Lanny walks around the corner and says, "Oh, I got you, Colonel." Oh, shit.
Oh,
Man, that was something else. So anyhow, the little girl's name is, oh God, I'm not going to say bad. I doubt I ever forget her. Anyhow, she grows up and joins the Army, goes through officer training, and when she gets ready to get her bars pinned on, she asks me to go and pin her bars on her.
That's pretty
So I go and pin the bars on her. And she goes off and goes to Iraq, and the last a couple of years ago, last year, when he called me to thank me on May the 18th, I said, "By the way, what's her name doing? Daughter." And he said, "Well, I tell you what, she's now a major in the Army, and she's in charge of the field hospital in Iraq." So, just for the fact that I was there on the site and was able to get them out, made a big impact on a lot of people.
Yeah.
But he still calls me after. And the last time he came out was about 3 years ago.
3 years ago, I think it
Yeah.
was.
And we all went out to dinner. Yeah.
cool. Let's take a little break here on this.
Okay.